Let me be super clear up front. Starting a blog is not a bad idea. It's a terrible idea. I've spent almost the last year and a half writing a blog, and it might have been one of the biggest wastes of time ever. But I've seen so many people suggest writing a blog and saying that it's a great source of passive income. That is completely different from my own experience. And look, there are some people that may, just maybe, be right for blogging, which I'll come back to at the end of this video. But the primary reason I'm making this video is to go through the 5 reasons that I stopped blogging and why you should never start one. But first, I need to go through why I started blogging in the first place. Part 1. Why I started writing a blog. The reason I started blogging is because a blog had changed my life. I stumbled upon MrMoneyMustache.com, a financial independence and retire early blog, when I was a senior in high school. It was through Mr. Money Mustache's website that I learned that instead of sitting in a cubicle and being miserable for the rest of my life, I could live frugally and reach financial freedom. It was like a light bulb went off for me, so I knew that I wanted to tell other people about financial freedom. Since a blog had changed my life, I wanted to have a blog myself. And look, I'd love to pretend like starting a blog was only about helping others. But I also hoped that it might make money. Mr. Money Mustache talked about this himself and reportedly made over $400,000 in a single year from his blog. I didn't expect to make that kind of money, but I did hope that eventually it would be a viable side hustle. So as soon as I graduated college, I launched my own blog. I used Bluehost as my hosting provider, which is why I partnered with them. When I was doing my research, they were one of the cheapest and most well-respected companies in the space. By signing up with them, I also got my domain name, firemansblog.com, for free, which was a really nice perk. I'll put an affiliate link in the description in case you decide that blogging is right for you, and I'll come back to them later. Part 2. Why I stopped blogging. So now that you're up to speed on why I was blogging, I want to go through the 5 reasons that I stopped. I'm hoping that by going through why blogging was the worst side hustle for me, you'll be able to tell whether blogging is right for you. So after I talk about the 5 reasons that I stopped blogging, I'll talk about who actually should run a blog. But anyway, without further ado, problem number 1, the results. Let me ask you a question. How many monthly readers would you need to make a living blogging? If you're thinking about starting a blog yourself, you should ask yourself this question. Seriously, and put your guess down in the comments. When I did this calculation myself, I assumed I'd earn $2 per 1,000 views, which is already on the high side of average. But even so, I'd still need 1 million monthly readers just to make $25,000 a year, which isn't even that much money. If I was still even on track for that goal though, I'd still be blogging. But I wasn't. I'd been blogging for over 6 months before I had 100 monthly viewers. And even then, I was optimistic that things were about to get rolling. But I was wrong. Most of those views were still coming from social media, which meant I was really reliant on Instagram and LinkedIn algorithms for pushing my content. It was only after another 6 months of blogging that I finally started to see Google search traffic become the dominant source of traffic to my site. But even then, a year into blogging, I was only getting about 150 to 200 monthly readers. Compared to the scale of the internet, that's basically nothing. I wasn't building an audience, which meant I wasn't having the impact I wanted. And even as my impressions exploded over 10,000, which is a measure of how many people are shown my blog, the clicks on my blog didn't increase substantially. And with just a few hundred monthly readers, there was no way to monetize my blog, much less make it profitable. Assuming $2 per 1,000 impressions, I would just be earning a few cents per month. But the reason this is such a big issue is really because of problem number 2, the time. If running a blog only took a few minutes of my time, maybe I'd still be happy to just maintain my blog and hope it took off eventually. But the problem is, running a blog is kind of hard. Writing a 3,000-word blog post every week is like writing an entire essay, and it often requires a lot of planning and research. The time varies a lot, but for me, I was spending about 2 to 8 hours per blog post. And then there's a bunch of little things, like optimizing for search engines or posting on social media. You'll also want to choose good stock photos so that your blog posts aren't just a wall of text. There are a few sites that offer free photos, but if you really want to stand out, you might want to take your own photos or work with one of my channel partners, Envato Elements, that provides royalty-free stock photos and video. But even with the help of Envato elements, that's still a lot of time that I was spending on every single post for just a few dozen readers. Of course, most of my time spent blogging was spent over the weekends, so you could argue that maybe I wouldn't be doing anything productive if I wasn't blogging anyway. But that's still time that I could pick up a different side hustle or part-time job. But not only is blogging not speeding up my journey to financial freedom, it's actually slowing me down. And that's because of problem number 3, the cost. Unfortunately, blogging isn't free. Even with one of the super cheap hosting plans that I bought through this video's partner, Bluehost, I've still spent hundreds of my own dollars on my blog, even though I haven't earned a penny from it. And that makes it a really good time to mention that I started a Patreon. There's a link in the description, or you can go to patreon.com/runningonfire if you want to support. Thanks so much. Social media accounts are free, so you don't have to pay to use that platform. But when you want to run your own blog, you have to provide the platform yourself. Without a large audience, that isn't very profitable. In fact, it isn't profitable at all. But honestly, given how cheap Bluehost is, the amount of money I've spent on my blog really pales in comparison to the cost of my time. I've written 92 posts so far. Assuming 5 hours per post, that's 460 hours of my time. Even if I just earned $20 for my time, that's still $9,200. If I earned as much for my time as I do as a data analyst, that would be $23,000. That's a big investment and something that not very many people are getting value from. But even so, if I loved what I was doing, maybe that wouldn't have been so bad. But that brings us to problem number 4, the joy. When I started blogging, I had this idea that it would just be a fun way to journal. I wanted to share the lessons that I thought were important and keep my brain engaged. And money was really not top of mind either because I knew that I'd have to be patient. So when I first started out, this really was a passion project. But it didn't take long before I realized that blogging is a lot of work. If I want people to discover and get value from my blog, I'd have to put a lot of effort into every single blog post. And this got really exhausting. And I also realized that to grow my blog, I couldn't just write about things that I thought were important. To gain any traction, I needed people to discover my blog through search engines. But to do that, I had to write about common keywords to hope that my blog aligned with what people were searching for. This meant I felt pressured to write really boring blog posts that I could stuff with search engine optimized content. New ideas and creativity don't work because nobody is searching for those. And if you look at how people are discovering my blog, you can see the proof for yourself. Keywords like retirement calculator bring in a lot of clicks, even though that's not really what I'm providing. So I was putting way too much work into something that I wasn't that passionate about to only reach a handful of people. That's not what I wanted. To make this project sustainable, I needed to find a way to make content that was fun and interesting to me while still reaching a larger audience. And that brings me to reason number 5, the alternative. At the end of the day, people in my generation just don't read blogs. I needed to switch platforms. And after doing just a little bit of thinking, I realized that I needed to start a YouTube channel. YouTube has a massive reach, so I knew that the YouTube algorithm would help me share my content rather than having to search engine optimize on Google. And while YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, I knew that I didn't need to rely on people searching for my content. As long as I could make titles and thumbnails that made people want to click, the YouTube algorithm would push my content for me. That meant creating content would be a lot more fun and rewarding, and I could explore topics that never would have succeeded as a blog post. And I think this is just how people consume media now. It's so much easier to build engagement with an audience through video than it is through a lifeless page of text. And with the ability to like, comment, and hopefully subscribe, I already have a much more engaged audience on my YouTube platform than I ever would on a blog. The biggest issue with this approach, which is why I didn't start a YouTube channel in the first place, is that I had no idea how to make YouTube videos. Some would argue that I still don't. So my first attempts at videos were really bad. But even so, one of these videos that I thought was terrible still had more views in a weekend than my blog had readers in a month. This was a huge wake-up call for me, and it's why I decided to put all of my time into this YouTube channel rather than letting a blog hold me back. Some of my videos get thousands of views now, which is more than my blog has gotten in an entire year. Part 3. Who should write a blog? Okay, as promised, I did want to take a second to talk about who should write a blog. And thanks for sticking around this long. Just because writing a blog was one of the worst side hustles for me doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong for you. Just like having a YouTube channel, it could be a great creative outlet, and it could be very profitable. I obviously prefer YouTube, but there might be a number of reasons that that's not right for you. For example, if you don't like being in front of a camera, blogging might be a better option. Now, it's not like I'm the greatest presenter, which a few people have pointed out in the comments. But even so, I don't mind being in front of the camera, even if it did take some getting used to. And if writing is the only part of the process that you have a passion for, then blogging might make more sense for you. And a blog might really have some real benefits. Longer form content tends to do better, and that content might be easier to discover with time. My YouTube videos, for example, get almost all of their views in just the first few days. But blog posts can age better with time and find more viewers later. That means it could be a much better source of passive income. Blogs also need way less equipment, and you don't need any crazy editing skills or anything like that. Maybe most importantly, do it if you think you'll love it. Having a creative outlet is extremely important, and if you can make money off of it, even better. And if you've listened to all of the reasons that I stopped blogging and still think that blogging might be right for you, then it probably is. And if you do start a blog, I recommend that you use Bluehost, the hosting provider that I used and one of this channel's partners. Bluehost keeps your site up and running, provides security, and basically does all of the annoying hard stuff so that you can focus on just blogging. And when I was doing my research, Bluehost was also one of the cheapest options, so there was a lot less risk to start out. So I'll include an affiliate link in the description if you want to try them out. As much as I didn't like blogging, I never had any issues with Bluehost. And if you want me to go more in depth on whether you should start a blog in a future video, let me know in the comments. And hey, blogging is just one of many possible side hustles, and sometimes it can feel impossible to pick which one is right for you. And that's why I made this video where I talked about the 3 different types of side hustles, my own experience with each, and the pros and cons. You definitely need to check that video out next, and I'll see you next time.